See if we can get a quick sound check. All right, guys, can you hear me? Let me know if you can hear me okay. That was Hannah, by the way.
Yeah, sorry.
She's
It's
hiding
silent
back.
now.
She's hiding back there somewhere. Oh, okay, looks like we're good. All right, guys, welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos, and we are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. And today we've got a real treat for you. Joining us is the incredibly talented Hannah Shakespeare, a powerhouse writer, producer, and showrunner who's left her mark on Hollywood. You might know her from crafting the dark, thrilling screenplay for The Raven with John Cusack, creating the gritty ABC crime drama Killer Woman starring Trisha Helfer, or serving as co-executive producer on The Sinner. Jessica Biel, I'm a huge fan. And guess what? She's also behind the new Hulu documentary capturing their killer, the girls on the high bridge. Diving into the chilling Delphi murder case, Hannah's got stories from the writer's room to the red carpet. And we're thrilled to have her here to spill the tea on her career and the gripping documentary. Stick around, drop your questions in the chat, and let's get into it. Welcome, Hannah Shakespeare.
Oh, thank you, Sleuth. I love that.
I
From the
thought I was going
writer's
to
room
screw
to the
that
red
up.
carpet.
Yeah, well, here, look. Let me show you something.
Oh, there's a picture of me on the red carpet of the Raven.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, God.
There you go.
Oh, God. Bad earrings, bad hair.
So welcome. Thanks for agreeing to come on.
Thank you for having me.
So the chat, you guys feel free to ask any questions that you want. I have a few of my own, and I think that's how we're going to start out, if that's okay, Hannah.
All good.
Okay, so here's question number one. What sparked your passion for true crime, and what keeps you drawn to the genre?
Okay, so this is a good question. Number one, because I grew up in Pennsylvania, and there's nothing like a good ghost story. Like I grew up with my mother was a big storyteller, and so I kind of was always into the idea of the dark side, so to speak. And then, to be totally frank, I think I was 40, like late in life, and I had written a bunch of features. Working with a team of a very successful screenwriter, not myself, but I kind of went through a writer's program with him. And I wanted to branch out on my own, and I realized that there weren't many women writing mystery and action stories. And so in an effort to kind of differentiate myself to get into the market, I, went down that pathway. And in going down that pathway, I got into some writers' rooms. I did some shows. And when you're on a show, invariably you have a bunch of consultants, like real crime consultants who will work with you. And I loved it. I kind of loved learning the ropes.
Mostly
from these.
men?
Yeah. Yeah. But I will say on the show I did, Killer Women, I ended up working with the first female Texas Ranger, which was fucking great.
It kind of ties into my third question.
Okay, jump ahead to your third.
Yeah. So do you weave elements of your own personality or experiences into the characters you create? Don't answer that yet. But this is why I ask, because you brought up Killer Woman. So let me read this description here.
Right.
It centers Killer Woman, and this is a show you created this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, centers on Molly Parker, one of only two women in the notoriously male Texas Rangers, a ballsy, beautiful badass who knows how to get to the truth and isn't afraid to ruffle a few feathers on her way there. Who does that sound like?
Not me.
It sounds like you to me. So do you weave elements of your own personality and your
not my own personality? No, my personality is not, frankly, good enough to weave anything about me into it. But I do weave kind of my I would say not my personality, but my kind of passion for certain things into it. That is definitely there. I've thankfully excluded the worst parts of myself from these characters. And people say write your own hero story, and so in those contexts, I've written primarily women for Hollywood. That was another thing that many people weren't doing. I mean, you have to understand. Okay, so yeah, this is 20 years ago. I'm talking about. There weren't very many female leads, particularly in the kind of investigatory procedural. It was all men. And so it's always a challenge to figure out in a very saturated market like Hollywood, how do you make a name for yourself? And so I went for women. I kind of imbued my own background with like, I just happen to be a person that really loves mystery. I always have. And so in that context, I guess I took my passion and I didn't take my personality.
What actual true crime cases kind of draw you to that genre of true crime? Anything you followed up on or keep up with?
Yeah, I mean, I think my favorite case on the planet is still the Zodiac. I mean, he just terrifies the shit out of me. And
Yeah,
I like to
definitely.
be terrified. I like to be terrified, which is a weird, but I think, we're watching this true crime market get exploded, and I think a lot of people like that. For me, I actually ironically followed this case. And I think I know ABC just did one of their 3-parters on it, the Josie Who's in Truth story.
Mm-hmm.
And I had read that in 1995, and I wrote my first television episodic spec script because I'd come from features and had never written anything in television. And there was a real divide at that time between feature writers and television writers. And television had not become the kind of go-to format that it is now. And so I read
You're
about
talking like Hulu and Netflix, how that's kind of formatted differently nowadays.
Well, no, I'm just saying even network. Network, I mean, there was a real divide. It was like, oh, are you a feature writer? Because we're much better than television writers. And then suddenly television was like attracting
Got typecasted.
the best writers in the business. And so I followed that case, and I was like, I think serial killers are like a great idea for a show. And I wrote a script called Wit's End that was totally based on the Who's in Truth story. So I knew that case inside and out. And it just terrified me. The keys left that were bent in the car door.
Yep.
And the shoes and stuff found in the parking lot at 4 something in the morning. And the fact it was open for ideas, i.e. it had not been solved, still hasn't been solved. So I wrote this script, and I think that it's like it's not typical. So there's verbiage in Hollywood, which is procedurals, and procedurals are, do you have a recurring cast of actors each week, and it's a case a week? And then there's something called serialized, in which, like True Detective,
I love True
is
Detective.
serialized. I do too. Who doesn't? So
yeah.
It's serialized in the context that it's not a case a week. It's an investigation that lands over the arc of the season. So I had written a serialized drama because I was like, I think it would be great to carry this case forward over multiple episodes. But at that time, it was just not in vogue. And so it didn't go anywhere, but it did get me into writers' rooms in television. It got me into my first job in television. And from there, just because I had written, ironically, it's so weird that true crime actually got me into fiction, which then has led me now back again to true crime. So that true crime case, I fictionalized into a narrative, sold it, got into writers' rooms, was on staff for various procedural shows. And then after, dealing with investigators and DAs and defense attorneys, I was like, well, I kind of get this. Like, why not try true crime myself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. And did you write The Raven with John
I did.
Cusack?
I wrote it with a dear friend of mine, Ben Livingston, phenomenal writer. And I wrote that, I don't even want to say, 1995. I think it
And
took us I think it took us at least 15 years to get that made. Oh yeah, there you go. Thank you. Thank you, Sleuth.
I'm a huge John Cusack fan. Like High Fidelity is like one of my favorite
Well,
movies.
yeah,
So you
of
got
course.
to hang out with this guy? That's cool.
I did. I went to Belgrade. They were shooting it in Belgrade.
That's awesome.
And my writing partner and I went to Belgrade to these old Milosevic studios that had been used for propaganda and had been turned into, television and feature film studios. So we were shooting there.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it was fun.
So that's kind of why question number 2 was, how do real life true crime cases inspire or shape the stories that you write? And I have a quick clip here.
Oh God, what are you doing to me?
This is from The Raven.
Were found
Let's see.
murdered. The daughter's body was lodged in a chimney. The mother's head was nearly severed with a straight razor. Does any of this sound familiar to you, Mr. Poe?
You're talking about my story. Work of fiction.
A work of fiction. So here, Edgar Allan Poe, here you are, Hannah Shakespeare, the writer who follows true crime. I mean, is that what you were thinking here? You know, kind of like, what if somebody took one of your stories and did something twisted with it? You know what I mean?
No, no. But that's super. That's actually more like you have a better understanding into me than I have into me. No, I was very interested, which is something that is relevant kind of to the Delphi case. I was very interested in the context. Edgar Allan Poe was the first detective novelist. And my opinion on him, having done a lot of research, is that he was very able to put himself in the killer's mindset, which hadn't been done before. And I was interested in this marriage between a really logical, fact based detective and the worth of somebody who kind of dreams in the art of motivation. And arrogantly, I thought that might be worth pursuing, which is what I kind of did trying to go into true crime. I don't know if you watched the 2019 doc, but the pitch of that was, what if there's an old fart like me who comes from a writer's point of view, is married with somebody like Mike Grazzo, who's got 40 years of experience, legit experience on scene. Could we kind of marry these two worlds in a way that could maybe
Well, it's like
gain,
a fact. It's like a fact-based world meets the visual part of it. You know.
not visual, meets the emotional element of what may miss investigators because it doesn't follow a particular logic?
Tunnel vision.
Right. Versus, well, what if you just break that apart and kind of imagine, which is not a fun thing to do, ironically, live in the world of the killer, like
William
what,
Graham.
right, exactly. So what would turn the killer on? What would motivate somebody to do a heinous crime? It may not fit your logic, a non-killer's logic, but what if you could actually understand the non-logical side of a killer,
Or try to.
or try to? Of course, you're never going to know the truth, right?
Yeah,
You're never going
even
to.
Dr. Ramsland, after Koberger confessed, she finally made a public statement saying these killers are so compartmentalized that even they can hide in front of
Yeah,
her.
I watched her interview the other day. I watched it. Yeah,
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting.
yeah,
Final question for me. Your new Hulu documentary
yes.
capturing their killer, the girls on the high bridge, dives
Mhm.
into the Delphi murders. What first hooked you on this case, and what can viewers expect from the documentary? And my notes are off to the side now. I don't have them.
So I kind of talked about this on Mono. So if people have heard that, like, please forgive me for kind of going over old land. But I had a dear friend of mine who was very, very smart in kind of reading between the narrative of what's put in the press. And she would flag these offbeat cases where she's like, I'm just not buying it. I'm just not buying what's being released. And one of those cases, well, the first case was a case in England. There was a guy who had been captured on CCTV footage. That CCTV footage was spread everywhere across the globe, and nobody could identify him. And so the police originally had declared that it was just an old guy who went to this moor and had a heart attack because he was walking uphill. And my friend said, yeah, anytime there's a white guy in his 60s and older that goes to a famous moor in England, there's a story. And nobody knows, how does this day and age, why aren't they able to identify who he is? So we went in. I said, well, I want to go to England. Like, I had some
Snoop
friends.
around.
I had some friends that were BBC directors and stuff. And I said, can we get a camera crew? And I just want to walk around and talk to people in the town. And so we talked to like a bar owner. We talked to some historians. We talked to some psychics. I ended up talking to an MI6 guy. And the more we dug into the case, well, it turned out that, they had called him Neil Dovestone just as like a Jane Doe because he was found next to a reservoir called Dovestone. Well, it turned out that, this guy actually, he had a heart attack, but he had a heart attack because he had ingested rat's poison.
Mm.
So I was like, well, okay. And then the police said, oh, we were sorry. It was a heart attack, but it was suicide. And my thought was, well, I don't, if you're going to go out, go drink a bottle of vodka and take 16 sleeping pills. Like, don't convulse yourself into death with rat poison. So that was kind of clue number one. Clue number two was we kind of forced our way into getting autopsy reports, and we found out that the guy had a broken femur that had been kind of roughly surgically repaired, but the serial number on the plate was filed off. And then we found out, like, oh, the guy had come into
Wait,
England,
on what plate? On the actual
the femur,
surgical
the femur
on
plate.
the
Yeah, on the
surgical
surgical
implant. Okay.
Yeah. So then we found out the guy had come in from Lahore, Pakistan. And then it turned out he had gone to a pension in England and dropped a suitcase. He'd paid in cash and dropped a suitcase that disappeared. Long and the short, we were able to identify the guy's true identity.
Wow.
And the identity was he was a spy, and a pretty high level one. And so that was purely through like what you guys do. It was purely through like sleuthing. It wasn't through like, we didn't have any inside information. We just went and did it. So I took it to a dear friend of mine who now runs Fremantle, Jimmy Fox. And I said, hey, this case is kind of interesting. He's like, yeah, but it's solved. And I said, well, what do you think about the idea of a kind of Angela Lansbury Murder, She Wrote writer, old fart that goes in and investigates true crime?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, that might work. This is back in 2018. And then we went around. He said, find me a case you think is interesting. And I didn't have one. And my dad had died in January of 2017. So I was, in the doldrums. So my friend waited a couple of months and she said, this case kind of fits the Dovestone case. It's got a lot of lack of transparency. The narrative doesn't seem right. It has all the elements. It's got this very interesting town. It's a very complicated mystery.
The name alone.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's got, a very heart-wrenching, not to be cavalier, but two leads in the context of these two girls who were viciously murdered. Maybe to get your mind off the grief, maybe we should start working the case.
Mm-hmm. Get busy.
And so it took me a couple months. It was May of 2017. My friend and I went out to Delphi for the first time. And there was like a celebration of life for Libby and Abby at either the middle school or high school. And so we went in through that. We started investigating.
And you had a huge victory. Let me see. I wrote this down here. So I think you were sitting with, was it Holman? when you were arguing with him about the video, releasing the full video of the bridge guy?
Maybe.
Yeah, you got on his case about it, asking why he wouldn't do it, and he told you if your kids had died, would you want them showing the video? So what do you think about that once they
Oh, I
actually
said, yeah, I
released?
would.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
what do
said,
you think about that now that they actually released the video and he basically lied to you? There wasn't anything there.
well,
They
look,
should have released it.
oh, I agree. I mean, I went in 2019 and I say it on camera. I'm going in with the intent to get more information to the public. That was my intent. And I was able to secure Ron Logan's warrant legally through Ron Logan and his attorney. And that was kind of the reveal that was a big get in 2019. That was not easy.
I'm pretty sure you forced that new direction presser too. I mean, it came right after your visit.
I don't
so
know. People say that. I'm not so sure about that.
It could be. Could have.
I don't take a victory off that. And as far as Holman bullshitting, Holman does have a history of doing that, but he's also a cop, and I don't fault cops for doing that. I don't.
Yeah, it goes with the territory.
Yeah, it does. So, yeah, I was going to push
Frog and the Scorpion, right? Frog.
Well,
and the Scorpion.
yeah. It's just, yeah. I mean,
goes with the territory.
I genuinely don't fault. I mean, Jerry, during this go around, was very polite and very, he had said right away, yeah, I definitely would go on camera with you guys, et cetera, et cetera. So I have real animosity and still do about Lesenby and the way he treated Carrie, but that's a different story than, what cops can say or won't say.
Yeah, that's upsetting. And a lot of the true crime cases that we cover have to do with people where the victims are a lot like Carrie and Derek, struggling with drugs and things like that can tear families apart. But when people that are in that situation experience true crime, law enforcement unfortunately like to sweep it right under the rug.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I'm seeing somebody say, didn't Ron Logan's attorney give that PCA to a lot of people? No. In 2019, we were the only people that got it. He eventually gave it to Deb Lowe or whatever her name is. And that was because Ron called me and said, will you vouch for her? Which I did.
Didn't Barbara McDonald have it? Or did you guys exchange after?
No, it's after. She got it after. And I gave it to Mahershi, and they, rightfully protected me as a source, but the cat's out of the bag.
Are you guys staying in contact? Are you guys still in contact?
With Mahershi? No, absolutely. No.
Not at all?
Mm-mm. I'd love for them to have gone on with me. I asked you. Go get Mahershi. It'll be fun.
No, I invited them. They didn't respond to me. I'm in their Facebook, on their little Facebook group. And they put out a something out like, hey, if you know YouTubers and they need a guest, to let them know, we're kind of doing a tour.
They put a lot more out than that. I mean, they called me sleazy and a bunch of stuff, which, why would I talk to those people?
What happened? I don't know the whole story.
I have no idea why they called me sleazy. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, they can take their side of the story. I invited them here. I'd love to talk to them.
Well, they can come on now if they're watching. I'd be happy to have them on. So tell me about the new documentary. I mean, what was going on behind the scenes? What does it take to get something like that put together?
So I was honestly, Sleuth, I was not going to do anything with the case. When Lifetime was like, no, we're not going to air it, I was like, okay, I'm done. Because
that was great. I was kind of heartbroken about that. So I'm glad you got with Fig and you guys put something out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm grateful for. I mean, Fig was like, I was scared and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I was done. I just felt like, there's not much more for me to be able to do. But like everybody else, I got sucked into the case, and people were coming to me with some tips and some bullshit that I looked at. I just continued to dig with no intent for a long while to do the case. And then I was like, no, I want to do this again. I want to pitch it. I want this out there. And so I put together what's called a deck, and I started pitching it. And I think I was rejected, around the clock for like a year at least a year. Brutal.
Do you still have contacts in Delphi?
Yeah, of course.
What are they saying now that Richard Allen's been sentenced and you got the documentary out? Like what?
Well, I mean, they should speak for themselves. I mean, there's a podcast that's out today with Jane Latman and Carrie Timmons talking about the case and talking about their opinions on it. Jane is talking about the process of getting the thing made, and Carrie's talking about her knowledge that the second she saw the pictures of Bridge Guy, she knew that was the killer.
Mm-hmm. That's how I felt. But I also
Yeah.
know that I was extremely biased,
Well, you can say that, Fig. I mean, sorry, Sleuth, but everybody's got an opinion.
Mm-hmm. Are you still in contact with Julie Melvin? I know you guys had that.
It is because Julie Melvin passed out the recordings, Doug Rice. What does that mean? What's Delphi relevant?
He's talking about the recording that Julie Melvin did of your guys behind the scenes kind of.
Oh yeah, that's a long I think that's 2018, right?
Yeah, brainstorming for the other documentary.
Yeah, I don't know. What's the question? No, I mean that should not have gotten out, and I've talked to Julie about that. I don't even know if I think she's the source of it, but I don't have any embarrassment about that. That was diving in and trying to get information. I was new to the case. I mean, I
thought
literally
it was great.
I hadn't met all of those people. That information is invaluable, by the way. That's like
Yeah.
a lot of those people are dead.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's evidence if you ask me.
It was
People talking about carrying bodies over creeks and stuff. Like there's a lot of
exactly.
weird stuff.
Yeah.
There
But there's
was
a lot of that. I mean, I think people have to understand that you're going in and you're talking to a community that's going through a trauma, and you have to figure out how to approach it in a way that's respectful, but also getting, information that might be relevant. And I'm not a journalist. I'm not in hindsight, I'm like, it was just a case that I really felt very passionately about. And I feel like I put everything I could into it. I put everything I have into it. And so, that involves going out and putting yourself in conversations with people you might not want to talk to, but you have to, if you're going to do it, effectively, you have to.
What was it like working with Patrick Westfall? He's an interesting character, huh?
Well, you're responsible. I really thank you so much for, allowing, because you had done the first interview with him. I thank you so much for putting me in contact with Patrick. I mean, Patrick and I have not talked to him since the doc aired. I thought he came across really well in the doc.
Yeah,
to
me
be
too.
frank.
Me too.
Patrick is a very, very intelligent man. I don't agree with some of his philosophies, but that's, he has the right to have them. And I enjoyed, being exposed to Patrick and having hearts to heart with him. I did.
Yeah, and you have to get close to the case if you want answers. When you just kind of stand and you're looking and you see that there's certain things that could be going on that aren't going on, things that people could be doing that they're not doing. Just kind of like the boots on the ground stuff, asking questions, seeing if some loyalties have changed here and there. So I like that you went out there and did that, because that's what it takes, is the actual work. You can't just sit around saying, oh, well, I wish somebody would have done this and that. You actually have to be the one sometimes to go get it done.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I've done that for 8 years. It's not, you can imagine a Hollywood screenwriter coming in to meet with Patrick. And Aspen Connor was with me the first time that we sat down with him. And, Patrick was willing to do it. I feel that he was very open and very clear about his opinions, and he expresses himself well. And, like I said, I don't agree with a lot of what he allegedly stands for. I mean, he'll say, that but I I respect his right to have a voice, and I think he's got a good voice, and I think he's frankly super interesting. So
I
I don't
agree.
like the idea that oh, just because I've deemed him to be a bad guy, I don't want to spend a minute of my time with him. Like that, if anything, that excites me to go talk to him.
You sound like an adrenaline junkie.
Wow, there's a bit of that in me, yeah.
I suffer from it as well. It kind of draws me into these types of things.
Yeah, of course.
So what are you working on now? What you got
I'm
going
not.
on?
I'm not.
What are you hoping to
I'm
get
not.
started? Nothing. You're taking a break,
And I'm not saying that either. I'm just waiting.
just hanging loose.
Well, these things, these things like Delphi hit me like a boulder. And that
Me
happens
too.
probably every 7 years, to be totally frank. There's other things that I've done where I'm like, no, I can't back away. This was a unique case. It was not my intent to go into true crime and do documentaries. It never was. I felt that there was a real social angle to this. I felt that it was an examination into a small town, law enforcement, people's lives ripped apart. I thought it had an angle to it that was, was um, you know, it gripped me and I couldn't get away from it. There's nothing on the horizon right now that grips me. Unless I could solve the Zodiac.
Well, some people think it has been solved. What do you make
I
of
know,
that?
I know all about it. I've talked to CC Moore at length about it.
How you feel about that case? I
I
don't
think
know.
they've I don't know. But like what happened to me in Delphi, every time there was new stuff coming forth, I'm like, oh, I could see that. I believe that. Then there's another. I'm like, oh, I could believe that too.
What'd you
I don't.
think of the writing on the Delphi movie? Or
The,
excuse me, the Zodiac movie. I
oh,
apologize.
well, that's Fincher.
You liked it? That was a
Yeah,
great movie.
yeah,
Yeah, I
of
saw it
course.
in theaters.
Yeah, it's David Fincher. You can't beat David Fincher.
So what are you gonna do? I mean, you can't just wash your hands with Delphi. I mean, nobody else is willing to do what you've been doing.
No, I think I will. I think that somebody should pick up the slack and cover the appellate stuff. And there are a lot of people who are super opinionated about it. So
But where are you at on this whole case? I mean, you get flack from. I
both
mean, I
sides.
just don't. I don't understand why people give you such a hard time. I must have missed something. So, but where are you? I mean, where are you on the case? Are you like me, where yes, he's convicted, but you
No,
haven't
so
understood?
you believe no, don't play this game with me.
Yeah.
You believe wholeheartedly that the guy's guilty, and I thought your
hmm
examination of the blood splatter and stuff, I thought was excellent. It's the reason I reached out to you because I genuinely thought that was great work. I don't
Thank
know if
you.
I agree with all of it, but I thought it was excellent. Where am I on this case?
hmm
I'm that a jury convicted Richard Allen. I think it is worthy of an appeal because I continue to think that third party nexus is something that I feel was discounted and it deserves an appellate court looking at it. Do I know Richard Allen is innocent? No. Do I know Richard Allen is guilty? No. In my opinion, doesn't really matter. It doesn't. I, I went into it as an examination of the decimation a crime like this does, not just to the immediate families, to an entire community.
hmm
And
Still doing it now.
still doing it. The vitriol is bizarre to me. But no, I'll never back off it. It's what I did in 2019. I don't think I think the lack of transparency, I think the aggression that law enforcement kind of pushed at with people trying to get some access to frankly, tell a story was, you know, wrong isn't the right word, but bad optics. And I also think that there needs to be better training in these communities. I don't fault law enforcement because this crime was incredibly, complicated.
But not really, if you think about it, right?
Well, I think it's always easy to say in hindsight it wasn't complicated. It was very complicated to try to figure out like what is the exact timeline? You know, how did they cross the creek? What is the evidence left on the crime scene? How did he get out of there? Why is there no DNA? Like, in hindsight, these crimes are always.
But I mean, let's look at it realistically. This is them, not me. They lost a tip, right? And that's how they solved the case. Is all they did was found the tip. That's it, and then the case was solved. There's no investigation into that. Oh, who's Rick Allen? Let's go talk to him. You know, that should have been done on day 4.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, they didn't, that doesn't take much. I mean, some rookie cop could have found the tip and solved this crime by just going and interviewing, you know, Richard Allen. Like, hey, we have enough to search, find the gun, case
I
solved.
don't even need a rookie cop. You had Kathy Shank who pulled it out of that. You know?
So how do you explain all of that weirdness surrounded by the Keegan Kline? But what specifically for you is it with the third party nexus? Like, what is it that kind of stands out for you? Does that relate to Patrick Westfall or to the other guy?
No, it doesn't relate to any of the trifecta, I call it. It doesn't relate to the Ron Logan. It doesn't relate to the
Just the evidence.
It doesn't relate to the Odinist stuff. What it relates to is, and Nexus is, you know, it's complicated and it goes state by state. My belief, and it's only my belief, is that reasonable doubt and third party are the two arguments you have in a proper defense. And typically, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've certainly spoken to many, and the idea that you have the right to present third party. And third party, according to like out of state attorneys, have said like that gets allowed sort of de facto in the context that it's considered the fundamental right of a defendant. And Nexus, I think a lot of people are like, well, they didn't put Ron Logan. Well, they kind of did put Ron Logan. They didn't put Keegan Kline. They didn't put any of the Odinists on the crime scene. So there is no nexus. And Judge Gall ruled that very, you know, clearly. Mm-hmm. That was her position. But, you know, conversely, there's a lot of opinion with very, you know, lauded and capable defense attorneys saying that nexus doesn't mean that you can put somebody on the crime scene. What it means is there enough evidence, i.e. confessions, and we have plenty of those.
Well, it's probable cause.
Well, I mean, why is that not enough to say it's worth looking at? You don't have it once. You don't have it twice. You have it 3 times.
So I think if it's not enough for a search warrant, then it's not a nexus. Like, for instance, Richard Allen, they wouldn't have been...
They searched Ron Logan's property, right? And they certainly did do interviews with Patrick Westfall and with Elvis Fields, etc. Mm-hmm. So they were investigating it on their own. They had a confession by Elvis Fields. So
no confession from Elvis Fields. Just
well, I stood on sister. The guy with that big, yeah, and I was at the bridge that day.
Yeah, his sister said she confessed and she passed a polygraph, and I believe her.
Well, but also he doesn't have the Muncie. He lied about the Muncie thing. He lied about the Muncie, his phone, why his phone was off that day. I mean, there's enough, in my opinion, when a guy says, if I spit on one of the girls and I was on the south side of the bridge and I lied about where I was that day.
Yeah, but they didn't find his spit. And people are weird with cops, especially if, let's say you're, I don't know, some low IQ guy who's just trying to sound smart. You know, like, hey, I'm trying to talk about DNA and sound cool with the cop. Like, right. You don't know, people just ask weird questions.
No, I get that, but I'm just saying it's. I mean, you can talk it away. They didn't find Richard Allen's DNA on the crime scene either. You know,
it's the bullet though.
Well, no, the bullet. I agree with you. The bullet is. I agree. Out of everything, the bullet is the most condemning of everything.
That's the nexus.
Right, that is the nexus for Richard Allen. But the question is, does nexus extend to other issues like people confessing or, Keegan Kline saying whatever he said, and everybody's like, well, they couldn't prove, they didn't have video footage of the red Jeep that day. I think that was the reason that they deemed that was not right. And then,
and that's silly to me.
Silly in what context?
In the context that you have Richard Allen pulling in from the direction of the cemetery and then passing the Hoosier Harvest Store video. Who's to say that the red Jeep or a secondary vehicle, let's say with the Klines, hypothetically, pull into the cemetery, but don't leave in the same direction as Richard Allen? They just pull out and go back the way they came.
No, of course. I mean, that's obvious to me. I mean,
So
my fundamental issue with the case is that I feel that because there's not one but three possibilities, that it should have been allowed. Now, it would have been up to the state to effectively disprove them, and if you follow the nexus of the gun, that would meet that bar. But I think there are a lot of people, and I agree with them, saying he's got a fundamental right to present third party, and there was enough evidence. I'm curious what the people are saying about the Reese Davis stuff.
mm-hmm.
I'm very curious about that. Tom Webster's a very dear friend of mine, and I adore him and I respect him.
Yeah,
and he keeps saying, "Oh, there were things in that Reese Davis thing, that letter, that they were lies or they didn't make sense." Well, there was a lot of stuff that did make sense.
Well, I mean, Keegan Kline confessed. You got this guy confessing over my, I don't know, you can call it my hypothesis, I guess, when it comes to true crime. But over that time period, there's been dozens of people who have confessed to the Delphi murders. You know what I mean? It's just something that people do for whatever reason.
Right, but you don't have somebody like Keegan Kline who's online as an Anthony Schatz talking to one of the victims that day. I mean, if that's not nexus, I mean, come on. And then you've got Reese Davis writing that Ron Logan confessed to him, and he wrote 8 letters, and in those
Box
letters,
cutter. You mentioned box cutter.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like Keegan Kline had something to do with it, and you have to ask yourself if the defense was so gung-ho, or excuse me, the prosecution was so gung-ho against Keegan Kline and his father, trying to tie them with Richard Allen. I think that's the very reason that the defense didn't go after him. They didn't want to help them out. Like, what if we did go after Keegan Kline and find out that he is connected to our client? But not to mention Brad Rosie, his firm defended Keegan Kline and Ron Logan.
I know, but that doesn't mean he can't compartmentalize and do.
Yeah, but I think it's a conflict of interest. If he goes after those two, he would have to step off the case. He would have to recuse himself. And maybe he didn't want to do that.
I don't know. I've never thought about that. Could be. Could be.
Right.
Could be.
I mean, why go after the Odinism when you have the obvious third-party suspect who's confessed right in front of you? Because it might lead back to your client.
Well, I think because there was a lot of serious law enforcement, including the FBI, saying this could be ritualized. It could be a ritualized kill.
Yeah, I think it could, and still be with Richard Allen, right? He could be the one conducting the ritual. Or
you could have potentially faked it, or you could find all sorts of different. I mean, I have not been able to connect Richard Allen to Odinism, but I do think, and we know that killers, potentially frame other people and use. But I do think that your explanation of the crime scene was really, really smart in the context that both of the major sticks paralleled the creek, i.e., were obscuring the bodies from the Brad Weber side of the property.
Yeah.
That struck me for the first time. I was like, that's interesting. I thought that was sincerely a really good examination.
Yeah, and I've spent a lot of time on this case. I think I have a pretty good understanding. I'm getting into the mind of Richard Allen. I'm seeing kind of his motives.
Yeah, I get
kind
that.
of get an idea of who he is.
Yeah. I think that goes into the Edgar Allan Poe of it all, though. I think you are, when people start pontificating what was going on in his brain, I a little bit get off the track on that, because we don't know. I do think the argument that for sure, and I was watching the Bundy stuff again, that they compartmentalize. You can move, and the idea that he can move from one an intense rage to a complete normal person, that statistically is true. I mean, that's exactly what happens. Like, that's irrefutable.
Well, I was watching an interview with a psychopathic killer, and the person who was giving the interview asked him, so talk to me about all this anger. He says, I don't know anything about anger. He's like, I don't have anger. He's like, it's rage. It goes from normal to rage.
I went back and looked at Bundy. I looked at Bundy in his final interviews, and I looked at some of the stuff he was doing when he was self-repping and stuff. And it's very, very clear. He can move between, I am an upstanding citizen devoted to the rights of all people, to, I'm going to fucking bite you and cut off your head. I get that. I completely get that.
But it's a
Um,
deep-seated rage. We try to understand that it comes from most likely childhood trauma and inadequacies and father and mother issues. So we try to understand, how do you get from being a normal person who suffered these childhood traumas to snapping, on a bridge, on one of your favorite trails and killing two people.
yeah, but statistically, in all of these killers that compartmentalize, there is always a pattern that is a buildup of violence. And I have not seen that established. The state didn't establish it. I don't see that in Rick Allen. I'd like to see that case made. I haven't seen it. I mean, we can pontificate that he's a compartmentalized killer, but they didn't find anything on it. Like, there's nothing. I mean, and statistically, and obviously there are always anomalies. You can find a pattern, albeit sometimes hidden. And, Mike Razzo, who, of course, I did the 2019 with, who caught the Green River Killer and all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A first-time kill with no DNA is really, really a marvel, to say the
That's
least.
not true. That's not true. Most crime scenes contain less than 2% of the killer's DNA. So it should be expected that you don't have the killer's DNA on a crime
Well,
scene.
Libby had defensive moves, right?
No, none.
She had stuff under her fingernails, I thought.
No, she just had her own blood on her hands.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Grazzo in this. No offense to you, Sleuth. I mean, that's a complicated crime scene, and I'm particularly with DNA advancements. I'm like, give me something. I would have preferred forensic evidence, but again, I've done this for 8 years. I've literally been in that community for 8 years. I would never go on record saying I am 100% certain Rick Allen is innocent, ever. Nor would I also go on saying I'm 100% certain Rick Allen is guilty.
Yeah, until he confesses.
Well, the confessions, of course, I have an issue
No, a
with.
real confession, like a real
Right.
confession.
I want something that's like, and I get the white van, I get that, but yeah. But my focus has always been on the idea that I will not back off this. I think law enforcement needs training. I don't think there's shame in that. I don't think there's any shame in saying this was a fucking nightmare of a crime. And this was, out of the purview of anything that they'd experienced, although there
I
are
agree.
So why not just say, number one, we need help. Number two, we want help. Number three, we also want training. Like, why not just say that? Like, what is
Pride.
the big deal saying, you know what, we did the best we can do, and we understand that people are upset about that, and we want to make it right and we're going to take these steps moving forward, rather than saying we got the right guy. Yeah, it took us, we lost a tip, we lost 70 hours of footage. Like, there's so many mistakes, and rather than just saying we own them, we're going to do better. For me personally,
I agree.
that would put an end to.
It's okay to be the bad guy from time to time. That's what people need to realize. Well, I mean, when people think of you, I mean, that's our fear, right? We don't want to be the bad guy. But what I'm saying is, it's okay to be the bad guy sometimes. Just come out and fess up and be like, yeah, I did that. People make mistakes.
But I'm not even saying bad guy. I'm just saying, like, this was.
Well, I mean, they don't want to do it for a reason. You know what I mean? They don't want to be honest for a reason.
Why would they assume
they don't want to look
that's
bad?
a bad guy? What to me that makes him as human. To me, that makes him seem like that they were heartbroken. As you talk to Mike Thomas, this is like, and I have talked to Jerry as well, and I firmly believe Jerry was like, and Carter was, this affected them personally. Like, you're over your head in a certain context. Why didn't they allow Roy West onto the case? Why didn't they allow the FBI to stay on the case? Why?
Yeah, Doug Carter said it from the beginning. He said, be patient with us. This is the first time we're dealing with anything like this. That's like, okay, well then ask for help. We don't need to be patient. You need to step it up.
That literally is my only gripe in all of this, which is I continue to feel like, I've certainly really, connected to Carrie in the context of like 6 years of her life wandering and waiting when you had the fucking tip in the drawer, like,
Yeah, it
how are you
pisses
going
me
to
off.
explain that away? How are you actually going to explain that away in a straight face rather than just saying, we messed up and we get it and we apologize? They've not apologized once for that.
They blame the FBI for it.
I mean, what? Because Orion wasn't working at the time? I mean,
Well, I think just because that's the person who handled the tip, it went from Doolin to an FBI employee, and then from there somehow there's cleared on it and it's hidden.
well,
But
because of
who's
Whiteman or whatever, yeah.
and the conspiracy to me is, and it makes sense, is that somebody for political reasons could have been like, oh, it's just Rick Allen. Like he's not going to do this again. Like this is a one-off. We'll hold on to this tip for the right time. That's the
No,
conspiracy.
I don't believe in. I just don't believe in the conspiracy stuff on this case. I really don't.
How do you lose that tip, though? I mean, how does that happen?
I think exactly what you said, which is they're getting inundated with hundreds of thousands, like not literally, but they're getting inundated with tips. It's a small staff. I mean, I know for a fact that a lot of the tips were sitting on Lesenby's floor. I know that.
Tip
And
75.
I mean,
Like, how do you go from 74 to 76?
well, how do you
And
lose
you're
70 hours on a DVR
Hmm.
when you knew that the DVR wasn't working in March and you continued to allow it to to not function? I mean, just
Yeah, you
why?
need a
I mean,
technical person in there that knows what they're doing
well,
with
yeah,
that
and,
stuff.
and maybe there isn't financing for that, but guess what? It cost you $4 million to run this case when it could have been solved very quickly and early on. So yeah, I don't have any apologies for my opinion about that. What I will say, will not back off of, is ABC 150% was devoted to telling a well-balanced documentary. And I know there's so much shit out there going, oh my God, they were so leaning toward Richard Allen's innocence. I didn't have anything to, people can hate me of the yin yang and say I'm biased. I'm telling you where I'm biased. I'm biased in the fact that I think law enforcement could have done better. And I'm not going to change my mind on that. But I'm not
I agree.
biased on presenting a documentary that tells both sides of the story because number one, you can't sell a documentary if you're not going to tell both sides of the story. Number two, if people are questioning ABC's ability, well, maybe pick up the phone and call ABC and see what they have to say about it, because they will stand firm on the idea that we did everything we possibly could to get as much state. The cops were gagged up after the new superintendent came on. Dateline got in early, and I laud them for doing that. We just weren't up and running yet. And by the time we were up and able to shoot, they had already, Carter's new superintendent said, no, there's no talking to anybody.
Were you there for the Kathy Allen stuff? Did you get the chance to talk to her?
No, I did not do those interviews. No.
We are at the top of the first hour. Do you want to spend the next half of this?
Just throw questions at me, and then I have to go because I'm
okay. Here we go.
tired.
There's a bunch coming. Hannah, is there any information you can speak about that wasn't in the Hulu documentary? Is there anything you can share? That you found that wasn't released?
No, I mean there were things that we wanted to include that wouldn't have been new information. I think, particularly for the people following the case. We just didn't have the time to do it.
Right, let me see if I can find some more here.
Did Anthony Greeno was part of the doc behind the scenes? No, Anthony Greeno was not part of the doc.
Anthony Greeno, huh?
Listen, I think Anthony is a great. He's got great editing skills.
I think he's working on his own doc, isn't he?
Well, good on him. I mean, that's the other thing I want to express. Unlike other people going out and trying to get information on this case, we did not ask for exclusives. We never did. We told every single person we spoke to, speak to as many people as you feel comfortable speaking to. We did not garner exclusives. It was part of our mandate. It was not. We wanted as many people out there talking about this case, and so all that crap can go to bed because it was not the case.
I don't see any other questions, Hannah.
Oh, I'm boring as fuck. Okay, good.
Yeah, if you guys have any other questions, otherwise this will just be our 10-minute warning here. So we'll just kind of let them come in. I've neglected the chat. I get that.
was a search of the gun match magic bullet during Ron Logan.
I don't know what that means.
No. I don't think
Fishy, what's up? Says Hannah, you are not boring.
well, I accept that I am, but
Fishy's awesome. Don't hate create. She's a YouTube content creator. CJK, I'd like to see a documentary on the behind the scenes shenanigans from the defense
daddies. Lana O. Who's that?
I'm not sure who Lana O is. Did their best to manipulate the outcome.
I love CJK. He's got a beef with me. I don't know who the fuck he is, but have at me.
Yeah, you guys don't hold back. If you got a tough question for Hannah.
Fine. I'm here because I felt strongly because since I did MATA, I wanted to come in because I know a lot of your, you followers, subscribers are pro-state, which I laud. I swear I'm totally fine with that. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
they
not
gave MATA a hard time.
Whether I'm totally fine with it. I'm just saying, come. I'll tell you anything I know.
Here we go. Hannah, do you feel there is more to this case? Your opinion.
I feel that there is more legally to be done on this case. I think that the appellate court is the right venue. Do I think that there's more hidden information and stuff? I think everybody on these chats knows as much, if not more than me, so I feel like, yeah, any information is like, yeah, there's probably a lot more to be done on the case. But I think at this point, the appellate courts have to handle it legally. Do I think someone else is involved?
That's GP. She's a sleuth crew member.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Would it shock me if they are? No. Do I see any evidence? No. Yeah, I mean, they're small town cops. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
So you're not compelled by the bullet? I know you said it was the best evidence, but I mean, is it compelling to you at all?
It is. It absolutely is. Like I said, if there was one thing that I would say is indictable, it's the bullet. I do think that science can be questioned. I think the error rate is pretty low. But I have to say, like, I wouldn't say the bullet alone would get me personally past reasonable doubt. If I had been sitting on the jury, I would have felt that the treatment by DOC and solitary and the law enforcement mistakes would move me toward I have more questions. So I wouldn't be able to go like, oh, you know what, that bullet is irrefutable, because I don't think it is irrefutable. I think it's highly likely, but I don't think it's irrefutable. For me, coupled with those other things, it wouldn't have gotten me personally past reasonable doubt. I mean, you talk to somebody like Tom Webster, and he's like, he doesn't even think about the bullet. He's like, no, the timeline put Betsy Blair put him on the bridge. He didn't see Libby and Abby coming back. Therefore, he's the killer because he would have seen them if he was coming back. Like, everybody's got their particular.
See, I believe in coincidences. So the timeline.
So do I. That doesn't get me. That doesn't get me anywhere. I mean, I've argued for 2 years with Tom.
So for me, it's like the timeline, and then why doesn't Richard Allen come out publicly and say that he's innocent? Why didn't his mother? It's the timeline, and why didn't his mother testify? Right, she's the last person to see him. She could have easily stood up there and said, "Well, Richard Allen was fine that day. He seemed fine."
That's a question for the defense attorneys. That's a strategic question, and I agree with that. The other thing I do want to mention is I saw this thing that the Daily Mail put out recently about that Richard Allen had told Janice that he went out to smoke a cigarette and he was afraid they were going to pin it on him.
Yeah, that's from the Murder Sheet, their book, The Shadow of the Bridge.
Big reveal. Well, the question I have is, do you honestly think that if investigators and Nick McClelland had that information, he wouldn't compel Janice to the stand?
You can't make a wife testify against her husband.
No, you absolutely, they would have called her. They wouldn't have done it on the auspice of testify against your son. They would have said, we're calling you to the stand.
Yeah, I think the answer to that question is the only reason that she wouldn't make a good witness is because she would have perjured herself, or she didn't have anything helpful to say, right?
Well, she apparently had that to say. Wouldn't that have been helpful for the state? She apparently had that to say, according to the investigatory sources.
Yeah, it
Also,
doesn't
this,
help
like,
the appeal because that's kind of like new information, really.
well, no, it has nothing to do with the appeal. It just has to do with libel.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to say about that is this idea that Richard Allen was threatening McClelland, and he told his
Judge
family, like,
Cole. He's going to kill Judge Cole.
yeah, well, I have a direct from the horse. That didn't happen. So I don't know what to say about that. You got to be very careful if you're going to hawk those kind of stories. You have to be very careful.
So you think that's a falsity, a falsehood?
I don't believe the sources. No.
Okay.
Was his daughter asked to be in the documentary? Absolutely. No. No.
Some jurors have come forward.
Yeah, no, we had jurors, and again, that goes to the idea that you've got 3 episodes to get this thing compacted. I know there's been a lot of complaints like, well, they didn't do this, they didn't do that. I think viewers really have to understand, you guys know the case so well.
We're elitists over
right.
here.
The global market doesn't have a clue.
Yeah.
And so Grace Miller was pulling her hair out and diving into this 24/7, as was Jane. These women, everybody on the team worked their asses off to do anything they could to make sure it was balanced, because that was the mandate from ABC. But the other thing was they genuinely wanted to do a 360-degree view. And so we can't get it. We didn't get the safekeeping order in. We didn't get the leaks. We had stuff on both sides that we wanted to put in. We just didn't have the time.
Yeah, I think for people new to the case, it was a great documentary. But for elitists like us,
I get that. It's disappointing. I totally 100% get that. I totally get that. I mean, people have spent years on this. Why did Rick Allen scream in court, "I'm not the killer"?
Why didn't, I think is what they're saying.
Oh, well, that would be bizarre.
I'm not the killer.
That would be a great television moment.
So you're leaning, it sounds like you're very interested in the whole Keegan Kline stuff. Am I picking up on that correctly?
No, not so much. I think they cleared him. I genuinely, I think they cleared the Odinist. I think they cleared Keegan Kline. I think they cleared Ron.
So who's got
Logan.
you think Ron Logan's pretty much clear too?
But again, there could very well be a connection between Keegan Kline and Ron Logan. I wouldn't put that past anything.
And Richard Allen, all 3 of them.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's what I'm genuinely not here to say like I 100% I don't know. I don't know.
But how do you just close the book on a case that you only know really like 10% about?
How do I?
No, not you. I'm talking about law enforcement. Like,
right, exactly.
They get to close the book and just kind of walk away from it like it's over. But there's really nothing's really been answered, really.
Well, I think by the fact that so many people are still vitriolic and arguing on both sides tells you that nobody's crazy on either side for saying he did it. There's nobody crazy on that didn't do it. I mean, it's split. The reaction from audiences on a kind of, not sophisticated side is they're coming back 50-50. And that's how I know it was balanced. People's responses are, I think he did it. People's responses are, I don't think he did it. So that's when people are like, oh, it's not biased, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, folks, it wasn't biased. I mean, it may have been biased to you guys, but it was not biased to the large audience.
It's biased to our bias.
Right. It's biased here. It's biased to both sides biased. But, the other thing is that I'm not joking about this. Like, people have to really understand when ABC is footing the bill on this and is legally exposed, they vet everything. And they are under a mandate to tell a balanced story. So if everybody thinks they know better than a massive network that spends years and years and years doing true crime that has obligated to tell a balanced story, you're just wrong. Now, do I get the idea that Kathy Allen was on camera more than people wanted her to be? I absolutely get that. But Nick McClelland said
that's what I was watching for was Kathy. I wanted to see what
Nick McClelland said he wouldn't, he strung us along forever saying, yeah, I'll do it. And then he ghosted us. Like, if we had Nick McClelland, but we didn't get him. He'll be at CrimeCon waxing poetic. There's no doubt about that.
You're going to be out there?
No. No, I don't do CrimeCon.
All right, guys, give us a couple more, and then we're going to let Hannah go. Give us a good one. Stop being little chickens. So, I mean, a lot of people who support Richard Allen, they're all about the conspiracy, though, right? Throw him into solitary confinement, get him to confess. Once he confesses, you use that as fuel during the trial, make him look like a madman, you know.
Right, but I do think DOC is very, very exposed on that. I mean, he's a
Mhm.
pre-trial convict who's put in solitary confinement for 13 months or something. I mean,
That'll
and
make
he's
anybody crazy.
well, he's doped up on Haldol as well. I mean, I spoke to inmates at Westfall who had said, "Oh yeah, they have this thing called um, the Haldol lobotomy. You know, they cut off the water and you drink from the toilet. You know,
Jesus.
I have the interviews of that on my own, not for the documentary.
Yeah,
And
we
that's
advocate for that on this channel heavily. We're looking for a third choice, you know, a third
in the
choice for.
context of what? You know, between incarceration to protect himself and others and
Mm-hmm.
solitary confinement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need a third choice.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, I mean, they're going to get, I'm surprised they haven't been sued. They will, you know, you can't put somebody in solitary pre-conviction and put a hood over them and dope them up with drugs. And did you talk to Holder or Logan? I spoke to Logan. Never spoke to Holder, but I spoke to Logan for years. Years.
How was that? What kind of vibe were you getting off him?
You know, this is like so interesting because I was ardent that Ron Logan had nothing to do with the crime, but
Compartmentalization. You got to be careful.
I was completely guilty of it. I literally spoke with Ron Logan, I would say 3 or 4 times a week for 2 years. Number one, he was never drunk or altered, and I had known him to be like a town drunk kind of thing. I think
Mm-hmm.
being in prison sobered him up. He was
His reputation
very,
preceded him.
very respectful. Never any kind of, you know, little innuendos, flirty or no,
And
absolutely
that's a
not.
red flag, really, for predators. You know, they give you those little dirty jokes to see if you laugh at it, and then they keep pushing you further and further.
Yeah, I think in all fairness, like I'm an old lady. I think Ron knew me well enough that if he copped that crap, he'd be in trouble. You know, I would have called him on it
Yeah,
immediately, or I probably would have started marking it. You know, I would have fed into it to get.
Mm-hmm.
He absolutely didn't. He was smart as a whip.
Yeah, he seems pretty intelligent,
Oh, he
and
was.
but he's pretty fit for his age.
Oh, he was super fit.
He looks strong.
The last conversation I had with Ron was, I was like, Ron, are you going to get the vaccine? He's like, COVID's a joke. I'm not, and then he died. He died of COVID. But that was the last conversation I had with him. But I talked to him frequently because he's super pissed about, you know, his handling in prison off a suspended license,
Mm-hmm.
which I agreed with. 2 years and maximum security. Because, I mean,
Well, a lot of people try to put weight on his weird confessions. You know, there were some people that were locked up with him and saying that he was masturbating and doing all this weird
well, I
stuff.
know that's Reese Davis shit. Yeah, I know.
But that's the stuff that Richard Allen was doing. You know, if you're in solitary confinement, you're gonna go crazy. You know, you're gonna have psychosis. Richard Allen was masturbating and saying he
Well, that's a
killed
good
Abby
point.
and
That's
Libby.
actually a good point, Slip. I mean, Ron was saying, like, you know, because he had dentures, he was saying they fed him carrots and he couldn't eat them and he was naked and you know,
Mhm.
he was really pissed about the handling. But, you know, in hindsight, I'm like, was I talking to a potential killer for 2 years? I mean, I was in his house
Yeah, I mean, you don't know.
alone.
They could have all been connected. Keegan Kline, Ron Logan, and Richard Allen.
I don't,
Why not?
anything is possible.
I mean, think about it. If you have 3 intelligent people sitting in a room and they're all psychopaths, they can get away with some shit.
It wouldn't, I think anything's possible. Well, they
Keegan
released,
Kline with the technical side, Ron
yeah, he was
Logan
savvy.
with the property, and then Richard Allen,
He was
serves
savvy. You see, they
as
just
the
busted
hunter.
an Israeli child predator out in Las Vegas, and I was like, Las Vegas, huh? This is
Mhm.
kind of interesting.
That's an interesting thing. Keegan Kline, they purchased plane tickets to Las Vegas
Mm-hmm.
shortly before creating the Anthony Shots account,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Now
then
you
they're
know
trying
they
to
had
meet up.
fire.
Yeah, so it's almost like they had a client in Las Vegas, right?
I think so. It sounds that way to me. And
Mm-hmm.
I had never thought like, but I was looking into Vegas because of that, and it's like it's a hotbed, man. It's a hotbed.
Yep.
I mean, it's obviously Vegas. We all know to be like, but it's a hotbed for sexual predators.
Sin City, right?
Yeah,
Sin City.
Sin City. But I just thought that meant like, gambling and having a few prostitutes. I didn't know it meant like child porn.
Hollywood's pretty bad too.
Oh, it's awful. Awful.
Reminds me of that movie 8mm. You ever seen that?
Oh, God, you remember that? You're old enough to remember that film?
That's one of my favorite movies.
It's a great movie. That was the beginning of the like stuff kind of Paranormal Activity and Blair Witch and all that kind of. Yeah.
All right, I'll look for one more for you, Hannah, and then we'll let you go.
Thank you.
Let's see. I'll try to find a good one.
Hannah, have you ever been incarcerated? No.
That one doesn't count, Eli. Good to see you, though. Well, I don't know. Seeing if I missed one. Well, I think that's it, Hannah.
All right, listen, so good talking to you, and great work on the crime scene, the blood stuff. That was great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And let me know if you ever want to come on again and talk about anything specific. We can focus in on certain things.
Yeah, I hope I haven't like either irritated or bored all of your followers. But
I thought it was great.
I wanted to come on and just give people a chance to, ask whatever.
Well, it looks like they got cold.
Thanks everybody for being civil, because I know some of you on there really fucking hate me.
Well, we love you, and that's all that counts.
All right, good work, Sleuth. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right, you take care of yourself. I'll talk to you real soon.
Sounds good.
Bye. All right, guys, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for hanging out, and make sure you guys go support Hannah Shakespeare and all the things that she's doing. She's a very humble person, but she's a pretty big shot, and she doesn't go around bragging, so I kind of like that. But she's been involved in a lot of huge projects, and she is a brilliant writer. So at the very least, make sure you guys respect her for that. We'll hang out in the chat here for maybe another 2 or 3 minutes, just to unwind. And Eli says he was not in real solitary. Richard Allen wasn't, but Ron Logan definitely was. It was said the clients bought their tickets in advance, but it made you wonder. Yeah, they were bought in advance. Actually, it might have even been the same month that they created the Anthony Shots account, somewhere around July of 2016. Bad actors, what's up? C. I don't think he worked alone. Moved the girl stage back to search. John was at home. Cindy, good to see you. Big shout out to Hannah Shakespeare. Thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure was all on this side. Thank you again. You didn't ask my question about him test. I didn't see it. I was looking for Hannah Shakespeare question. So I might have looked over it. I asked if she did think he needed to testify to be found not guilty. Yeah, I didn't see it. Sorry, bad actors. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I got Hannah's back, so. All right, guys, that is going to do it. Remember, guys, we're 100% crowd-funded, so if you want to hit that Cash App, I would greatly appreciate it. If not, if you can't hit the Cash App, hit the like button. And if you're feeling extra froggy, go share the video. And if you're part of the replay crew, you know exactly what to do. Drop a comment. We'll get back to you. Everybody else, if you need to get a hold of me, you can always shoot me an email at sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Go check out my website. It's under construction right now, but you can go check it out, sleuthintuition.com. Good to see you, Deb, GP. All right, guys, on that note, take care of yourselves. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Peace.
I rest my case.